And our presenters today are the following. Kate Morgan. She's an instructional designer with over 20 years of experience in higher education. Kate holds a bachelor's degree in journalism and public relations and a master's in interactive design. Passionate about the future of education, she's currently focused on integrating artificial intelligence to enhance course design and prepare students for careers in an ever-changing world. Lisa Byrnes is the lead instructional designer for the School of Labor and Employment Relations. She joined Penn State as an instructional designer in 2007, as has collaborated with faculty and program directors to design, develop, and offer various online programs. Lisa is the QM co-coordinator for Penn State and is very active in the QM for Revision program at the university. She holds a master's degree in instructional technology from Bloomsburg University of Pennsylvania. Penny Ralston-Berg is an award-winning instructional designer with 25 plus years of experience designing online courses. Her interests include student perspectives of quality and how this impacts design practice, growth of instructional designers from novice to expert, collaboration between IDs and SMEs, and the use of games and simulations in online instruction. She's currently an instructional designer and serves as a QM coordinator and QM facilitator for Penn State. She's a past recipient of the QM Directors Award for Exceptional Service and former chair of the Quality Matters Instructional Designers Association. Welcome, everyone. Go ahead and take over.
Welcome. Thank you. And Nancy, before we get started, there are a ton of questions in the chat about the recording and the materials. Could you let everybody know how that
Okay, sure.
work?
Yes. We'll be sharing the materials. The session is being recorded and you'll receive a link to the recording within a few days.
Good. All right.
The session is also being captioned and I'll place that link in the chat again.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I guess we can get started here. I saw a lot of great song titles in the chat. So welcome to our session. This work represents a small but mighty team of 5 instructional designers at Penn State who meet 2 hours a week to explore and build AI solutions within our World Campus AI working group. Lisa can change the slide.
Sorry, I was reading all these great song titles.
Right? They're awesome, aren't they?
Oh my gosh.
And then the next one. There we go. So as Nancy mentioned, we are Lisa, Penny, and Kate. These are our portraits from ChatGPT circa 2020 or circa 2024. These are the portraits from 2025. So as you can see, they're getting a lot better. But this also goes to show that we don't always get what we want from AI. And so the photorealism is getting a little better, but the accuracy of the depictions maybe not as much. So we just wanted to use these to make the point that as we proceed through the session, please keep in mind our common theme that AI is never 100%, and always be sure to vet and validate, correct it, push back on it to be sure that you get what you want. And now I'll hand it off to Lisa.
Thank you very much. I just want to point out how somebody said they wanted Penny's haircut, but notice Penny on the bottom picture, how she looks like she's about 12. So I don't know if she actually put that in the request or not. I also loved whoever put in "Don't Fear the Reaper." Now I keep hearing "We need more cowbell" in my head. Okay, so in now in the chat, we're going to switch the chat up a little bit. I want you to put in chat, describe AI in education in one word. Okay, if you can, describe in one word, what does AI in education look to you? Wow. Look at that. That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay. Keep typing those in there because I'm going to talk a little bit about what my section of this presentation is going to be. So welcome, and thank you all for joining us today across the world. In this section of the presentation, we're going to take you on a little bit of a journey from rubrics to custom GPTs. You know, when we give a presentation like this, we never know what the skill level of participants is going to be. Therefore, our idea here today is that we're hoping we have a little bit of something for everyone. And of course, if you already use AI for any of the tasks that we're presenting, please share any tips, any tricks, anything that you have found out, best practices, because we are all here to learn from each other. We'll start with 2 practical tasks, writing rubrics and writing learning objectives, and there'll be a brief overview on how those simple tasks can lead you to a much more powerful skill of creating custom GPTs. Is everybody ready? Let's get started. Okay, why are we here? No, not in the universe. That's a much bigger question, and I can't answer that one. But why are we in this presentation? Well, because as Dr. Ethan Mollick has stated, the integration of AI in education is not a future possibility. It is our present reality. And if we want to continue being effective and stay current with trends, we need to learn about this technology that is rapidly evolving, not only in education, but everywhere. So let's start by framing the conversation around why AI matters in education. So artificial intelligence is becoming increasingly relevant in the field of teaching and learning. It's not just a trend, it's shaping how students access information and how educators can personalize instruction. AI is here and it's making an impact. The beauty of this tool lies in its ability to enhance productivity for educators, and who doesn't need more time. AI can significantly reduce the time required to create rubrics, write measurable objectives. AI helps to free up time, allowing educators to focus more on student interaction. And in other words, AI can help us work smarter, not harder. However, it's necessary to emphasize that AI is a tool to support us. It's to support us, not to replace us. The human element in education is irreplaceable. AI can streamline processes and extend our reach to students, but it can't replicate the critical thinking and mentorship that we provide to our students. The goal isn't substitution, it's augmentation. So now that we talked about why AI matters in education, let's look at how we can get started. So there are several very popular AI tools available today, including ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, and Google Gemini. Each has its own strengths. You just pick one and you start to explore. Most people find ChatGPT a good starting point due to its ease of use. Many AI tools are available, though, in both free and paid versions. Free versions can perform quite well, especially for basic tasks like doing rubrics and objectives. Paid plans typically unlock additional features such as image generation, the ability to upload documents and pictures, and creating custom GPTs. To get started, you can access ChatGPT directly at chat.openai.com. It's browser-based, so there's no software that you need to install. You just create an account, you log in, and you start experimenting. The nice thing about ChatGPT is that you don't need to be tech savvy to use it. All you need is your browser and a sense of curiosity. So when it comes to writing learning objectives, AI can be a surprising, helpful assistant. In fact, I think of AI as my assistant. It's open all the time on my computer. But it helps you to create your objectives using Bloom's taxonomy. AI tools can be prompted to use Bloom's levels, which keeps your objectives focused and appropriate. If we wanted to have AI produce objectives, we could ask ChatGPT, using Bloom's taxonomy, write 3 learning objectives for lesson on X, whatever your topic may be. You can even add more direction if you'd like. The more specific you are, the better the results. Some people write very long prompts. I have noticed over the years that I can write shorter prompts and still get the same results. So ChatGPT in AI has improved. What is fascinating is that tools like ChatGPT can generate clear, measurable outcomes. These can be revised and refined, but they give you a solid starting point, and that's really what AI does for us. It gives us that starting point that we don't have to start from scratch, and it can save us time. It's important to note that AI doesn't replace your judgment. It just helps us to accelerate our process. So now let's talk about creating rubrics. One of the most practical ways to use AI in course design is to create rubrics. First, you want to create a good prompt. For example, you might say, create a 25-point rubric with 5 criteria and 3 grading levels for X assignment. If you're not satisfied with what AI gives you, ask it to adjust the criteria or change the grading level. Just be specific about what you want. Talk to AI like you're talking to someone. Keep prodding it to have it give you what you want. After creating a draft of the rubric, you can now edit and refine it to your needs. The key takeaway here is that AI provides that starting point again. You don't have to start from scratch, but you can make it your own. So as we continue to explore how AI can support our teaching, one of the most practical applications is generating assessments and learning activities. First, with quizzes, AI can quickly create multiple choice and true-false questions from your content. You can also use you can also use AI to draft essay questions, short answer questions, essay prompts. Give AI your topic or learning objectives, and it will generate open-ended questions that promote critical thinking. We want to keep that critical thinking part in there because we still want our students to think critically. AI can help you develop case studies and role play scenarios, which we'll show an example of today, where learners can benefit from applying knowledge in realistic, complex situations. The beauty of this, again, is that you're not starting from a blank page. AI provides a draft, and you use your judgment to refine it for your course and student needs. Of course, notice that I'm saying that you refine it because anything that AI creates, you need to be sure that you're reviewing to make sure the information is correct. So now let's talk a little bit now about custom GPTs. You have now mastered prompt writing. You can create excellent measurable objectives, and you can complete 10 rubrics in 3.5 seconds. You know how long it used to take to make rubrics, but now you want to expand your use of AI. So one of the most powerful ways to harness artificial intelligence is by building custom GPTs. These are specialized tools designed to complete specific and repeatable tasks. I'm going to share 3 examples we either have explored or we have seen in action. First one is the negotiator. Almost sounds like the Terminator, but this is a lot less scary. This GPT allows students to role play negotiation scenarios with AI acting as a union representative or a manager, and then the student plays the other role. An engaging, low-risk way for students to practice negotiation. Another one we've created is the case study simulator, also known as the scenario crafter. This tool will help faculty create a scenario or case study tailored to that specific course. It makes excellent assignments that allow students to practice analyzing complex situations and justify their response. And then we have the image descriptor. Oh, this is a beauty wrapped in ChatGPT. We all know that creating appropriate ADA compliant alt text for images can be time intensive and challenging. Later in this presentation, you will see the alt text creator in action. The beauty about custom GPTs is that they are easy to construct and you don't need any program skills to build them. You just need to have a clear idea of the problem that you want to solve. So in this segment of the presentation, I'm going to actually show you the process that we use to create a custom GPT called the scenario crafter. The scenario crafter is also can be referred to as a case study. So it's really the same thing. Okay, so let me give you a little bit of a backstory. So I am an instructional designer. I work with faculty to help them develop courses. And when I had this particular faculty member first mentioned that she would like to include case studies in a course, she explained that she would either create one from scratch or attempt to find a case study out there that she could adapt. But both of these approaches come with some issues. First, creating a case study is incredibly time-consuming. You're not just writing a few paragraphs, you're creating characters, a company, a storyline, and a conflict that makes the case engaging. Second, even when you find pre-made case study online, it's not tailored to your course. It might be too general or outdated or focused on the wrong discipline. So we faced a challenge: how to create case studies that felt realistic and relevant without being dragged into a time-consuming project. So what did we do? Insert ChatGPT. Instead of spending hours building a case study from scratch, we gave ChatGPT a few simple prompts and let it do the heavy lifting. With a bit of prodding, it created the characters complete with job titles, personalities, education, experience, everything that we wanted to have to build these robust characters. It built out the storyline, tailored our topic and learning goals. We even used ChatGPT to generate character images and make the content visually engaging. And poof, it was done. All of that was completed in a short time. What used to take days now takes us minutes, and it's customized, relevant, and specific to our course. Let's look at what ChatGPT created for us. Let me introduce to you Tektronic. That was our fictional company that serves as the anchor for the scenario created by ChatGPT. What ChatGPT initially gave us was a very simple concept. It was a basic company with a general workforce. That their issue was, the major union issue was that they heard that the company wanted to automate processes. Not bad. It provided us with a fairly good starting point. However, with input from the SME, we realized we needed to provide our characters and story more substance. So we gave Tektronic a makeover, just like they do on TV. In the updated version, it's now a software company, which better aligns with the types of decisions and challenges we want the students to explore. The workforce isn't just a generic workforce, it's described as diverse. We also added much needed complexity to the issues facing the company to make it feel like a real organization with real dynamics that matter. We did this by prompting ChatGPT with more specific instructions, such as make the company a software company instead of just a technology company. Create a diverse workshop or workforce that includes a comprehensive profile detailing years of service, specific job title, education background, professional experience, areas of expertise, and major achievements. So we asked it to build these characters out, and it did. We also asked it to implement common issues that employees face in the workplace. And with a click of a button, in seconds, ChatGPT gave us extensive profiles for each character, a story software company struggling with employees over the proposed compensation structure, their adoption of new technologies, and how they plan to use AI to automate these processes. It gave us this entire story in a click of a button. So let's take a look at some of the characters that ChatGPT created for us. It created these personas, and we also used it to generate character images. Here you can see the final result of us using AI to generate the characters for the Tektronic scenario. Now, thanks to profile created also by ChatGPT, students can connect with these characters. There's a face to a name now. Each character has a rich backstory, a unique skill set, and a role to play in the scenario. This depth makes it helpful in creating a weekly, authentic scenario for role playing, stakeholder analysis, or also decision making. And best of all, this was all generated in minutes, not weeks. This demonstrates how AI can be leveraged to create realistic, engaging characters, enabling students to connect more deeply with the content while saving the faculty hours of development time. I just don't even know after you start using AI what you're going to do with all your free time. Of course, I'm kidding. I know we're all busy. All of the information we have created so far, including the company story and character profiles, is compiled into one Word document that we will use as knowledge in our Custom GPT. So once we had the characters and the backstory in Tektronic in one Word document, the next step was to design the Custom GPT. We created Custom GPT using the ChatGPT builder. So we included in that custom GPT the Word document that included the custom GPT, the Word document that included the characters and the background story. We then provided it with specific steps and instructions on what we wanted it to create each week based on the topic we entered into the custom GPT. So the instructor would enter a topic into the custom GPT, and then it would produce the following. Once the GPT was designed, we could use the GPT as a powerful scenario crafter, a tool that generated dynamic course-aligned assignments for each of the weeks of instruction. And it didn't only provide us with scenario related to the topic of the week, but it also provided options for assignments to choose from, clear rubrics for grading, and additional prompts that we could guide students in more critical thinking. We didn't have to start from scratch every week. We used the custom GPT to generate a weekly scenario using the same company and the same characters. It was a huge time saver, and it kept everything aligned with the course objectives and the character storyline throughout the entire system, or throughout the entire semester. Once our GPT was built, we could produce these weekly assignments and rubrics and prompts with a few keystrokes. So this course has been running for a couple of semesters now. We've gathered some feedback from both students and faculty, which has provided us with some great insight into what has worked.
Lisa, can you tell us the name of the course, please?
Oh, sure. The course was a, boy, I can't remember. I'll have to look at the name because I know them all by number. It's LHS 304. I know that doesn't help you at all, but I have to check the name of the course. But I will get back to you and put that in chat to say what the name of the course. It was on union and management. I think it was collective bargaining.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I think it's collective bargaining.
Yeah, someone had asked the question about providing more context about Tektronic, but I think the idea was that it's a labor and management negotiation of different kinds of contracts, and so they needed a fictitious company to work within for the whole course to do those activities. Sorry, I just wanted to answer that question real quick.
Thank you very much. So the students responded positively. They said that the assignments felt more authentic, and they thought they were addressing actual workplace issues. That's so important. They felt robust characters in the weekly scenarios related to the content made the learning more engaging. The faculty noticed that the quality of the student papers had improved. The structure provided by GPT, along with the rich background information, helped the students create more in-depth informational papers. And after talking with the instructor, we do have a goal to make a student-facing GPT for the course, one in which the students would have direct access to role play within this scenario. And this will be our next logical step in making the experience more interactive and more learner-driven. So my question to all of you to put into chat, if you could answer this, what one skill will future-proof educators over the next 5 years? So what is the skill? Is it prompt writing? What is the skill that is going to future-proof? Is it knowing how to write chat GPTs? Okay, keep answering in the chat, and I'm going to just follow up here with some tips and takeaways. First of all, just start small. If you haven't used AI yet, try doing it, making objectives, doing rubrics, doing quizzes. And then once you feel comfortable and you've seen how it works, start experimenting with custom GPTs. And let me add that custom GPTs can only be built in the paid version of ChatGPT. But the more you work with AI, the more you're going to start to feel like it's an assistant. And efficiency. It improves our efficiency. This is one of the most significant benefits that can be achieved by using AI. So let AI do the heavy lifting. Let it handle the repetitive tasks so that it can free up time for you to help your students more. Okay, Kate, carry on.
Remember to turn on my microphone. Consider that a win. So thank you, Lisa. That was great. you know, one of the best parts about exploring AI, I have found, in my opinion, is it's brought fun and curiosity back to education. I mean, at least for me, it has definitely reignited that spark. And I've heard tons of people fearful that it's going to weaken critical thinking. And I get that. I get the cheating aspect of AI. But I've found when you really are using it as a partner, it does the exact opposite. When used thoughtfully, it pushes me to ask better questions, not fewer. It pushes me to examine the answers that I get, and it gives me time to think about an even more complex situation. It synthesizes a lot of the content. But anyway, I am here to chat about AI and imagery, which I'm very excited about because, the visual type of person that I am, I used to be a photographer, I have a graphic design background, like I'm a very visual person. And AI imagery is really coming to the forefront right now. It's getting a lot of attention. Video making is getting there, and all of the images you can create. And it's a mixed bag of opportunity and terrifying things happening. So now AI images, just a little bit background here. They're created using something called the diffusion technique. Okay, so think of it like starting with a noisy, blurry canvas and then slowly unerasing the correct pixel. So it's the exact opposite of traditional drawing where you add content. You're actually removing content to create images. And that's why it's always struggled in the beginning with like very detailed text or things like that. It was a terrible speller for the longest time, which didn't make sense because regular AI was very good at spelling. So there was kind of this like oxymoron going on. Anyway, that's basically a little bit of background. We have a poll coming up next, which is just before I get into all of my spiel, what is your current biggest curiosity, concern with AI imagery? Let's see. Yes, copyright, huge. Uh, Fake news. Yeah, these things make my heart beat a little faster, makes my skin tingle a little bit because there's so much great opportunity. And I think that with great opportunity comes great responsibility. And especially in our realm, where we are the faculty members, where we are the educators, where we are the people in the educational system, it's our job to help people come along and be responsible and become those people. All right, the next slide, please. Well, let's crack into it, okay? So I'm just going to touch on a few of the big players right now, all right? So these are ones you've probably heard of in terms of image creation. So DALL-E 3, which is part of OpenAI, is used in ChatGPT and Copilot. And it is great because it is something called in-painting. And if you don't know what that is, in the earlier days of AI imagery, when you created an image and there was something wrong with it, you had to create a whole new image. You couldn't just edit that one thing wrong with it out. Well, in painting lets you actually open the image, highlight the area that you don't like, and it fixes it for you without ruining the image you actually like. So that's kind of a really neat advance. Now, Adobe Firefly, they are the only tool that guarantees that they are commercial safe. And that is because Adobe pays their artists and then only creates the AI from their paid artist content. So right now, Adobe Firefly is the only tool that will ensure it. Now, Canva and Adobe Express do this mixture of like AI text and images. And it's really great for educators or like party planners because you can make social media posts, you can make flyers, you can do anything with it, invitations. I mean, I use it all the time. Now, I included Sora because this is the newest, like, this is OpenAI's video. It's like dipping its toe in video, and it's a really great place to experiment. And honestly, I'm not getting great results for it. I get kind of weird results, but it's really interesting to kind of figure out what the prompting is needed and see what comes out with the words that I put in there in. And one thing I definitely like about Sora is when you were looking at the main page of it, which you can find directly from ChatGPT, they have all the examples that people have shared. And when you roll over those examples, it shows you their prompts. So you can kind of educate yourself on some prompts that maybe might direct you in the area where you're trying to get something from, the image. Okay, next slide. So there's a ton out there. We know that. There's like AI everything. Everything has got a little piece of it. There's brand new platforms coming out. I just created this quick chart in ChatGPT and said, hey, could you compare these tools? Give me some of their strengths and weaknesses and common usages. This isn't something that I would publish. This isn't something, but it's something for me to look at and be like, oh, let me look at this. And one thing that caught my eye, which it should have caught my eye earlier, but it didn't. But if you look at the Adobe Firefly and the commercial use policy, it says it's safe for commercial use. But then you go down to Adobe Express, and of course, it says it's aligned with Adobe's. So both of them should be safe for commercial use. I would double check that, but it was one of those things like, oh, this chart, which ChatGPT gave me as a chart, I didn't even have to create this chart, like even put it in the boxes. And it's a good place to start if you're trying to figure out a new tool or something. Like, quickly break this down for me.
Okay,
Okay.
somebody had asked which one of these are free. Are there any that are free?
Well, ChatGPT lets you create images for free, doesn't it?
Yes.
And so does Copilot. Yeah, all of them are free as far as I know.
Okay.
At least certain amounts. There's always tiers of how much you can do. Now, citing an image, that's a huge topic right now. It's huge because there is guidelines from APA and MLA, but everything is still in evolution. This is really new, and there are different, schools of thought on how this should be done. But as a rule of thumb, the main elements you want to track when you are creating a visual that you intend to use, the tool that you're using, the prompt that you're using, and the creator, which is you if you're using it, or your students if they're using it, and the date it was created. Okay, those are pretty much the pieces that are being included in most citations. A good rule of thumb is when you are, you know, using AI, cite your image because you wouldn't copy something by hand, like a Van Gogh image, and then say you made it. Like you would say it was inspired by Van Gogh. And I think that's really important. Next slide. Again, I want to repeat again the copyright. Adobe Firefly images are safe to use commercially. They can be traced by Adobe. So like if there's a court issue, you can figure out where it all came from. Dolly has this little like word play. It says, I do not knowingly reproduce copyrighted content, but it also doesn't guarantee compliance. If you read the very bottom portion of it, it says, you're responsible for ensuring that you don't infringe on third-party rights. But if you're not sure where it's pulling content from, then how can you ensure that? Which is basically cite it, don't use it, something like that. Okay. Ultimately, we need to talk about ethical awareness. Obviously, we don't trust everything on the internet. But guess what? A lot of AI, all of AI, has been trained by what's on the internet. And AI doesn't just produce pretty pictures, it carries the weight of all the data that it's been trained on. So it's up to us or the user or the student to be ethically aware. And it's really important to bring this to the forefront of any conversation because there is bias in databases, which means that certain perspectives or identities may be underrepresented or portrayed in a stereotypical way. And that's not just a tech problem, it's a human problem. I mean, we see it everywhere. And also, always consider consent and copyright. Many AI models are trained on images that were scraped out of the internet. Even if you're generating something quote unquote new, it doesn't mean that the material behind it was given freely. I said I was a photographer earlier. I can't tell you, I did it for Penn State, I did it for one of the campuses I work on, but to this day, I'll be looking at a magazine. I'll be looking at not a magazine that like a newsletter, or I'll be looking at social media, and one of my photos is someone's backdrop or is someone's banner, and it always makes me laugh a little bit. Like I'm not angry, but I get it. I get when you see like, oh, I mean, I didn't earn my money by every picture I took, but some people do, and so people's creative rights are important to remember. So just remember, not all the material is freely given. And the misinformation that is out there. Images can look real and can easily spread false ideas. And this becomes really tricky in education and public contexts. Double check, give credit was due, and ask, would I feel okay if this is my own work? Because once the misinformation is out there, it's hard to correct a wrong, or it's hard to change people's minds, or get them to remember it was wrong. Those are really important things. Okay, so let's get into a little more of the open positive stuff right here, which is what can you do with AI imagery? There's a lot you can do with it. There's a lot you can do with it that will help make your jobs easier. So, you can help create scenarios for instruction or tutorials, like Lisa just said. And lots of people have tried that, even just for ideas for these things. Visuals or presentations, you can illustrate abstract emotional concepts. Like sometimes it's fun just to ask an AI tool to be like, show me what this looks like. And I've got a couple examples at the end that we'll look at. If you're looking at character development, to add to something else, honestly, you can do almost anything. Next slide. But guess what? You can now do it in reverse, and this is very, very exciting. Okay, I don't know how it does it. I'm sure I could, come up with a million ideas of how it does it. But you can upload an image into ChatGPT, and it can create accessible text. It can um, extract the text and give it to you so you don't have to retype it if you wanted to put it in a different format or update a design. You can put a chart in there and ask it for a summary of that chart, and it can give you an overview of what it thinks the chart is. It is powerful, okay? You can ask it to simplify an infographic so you could explain it to a 5-year-old. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of the game GeoGuessr. It's like this online game where they give you this like intersection or a street in an abandoned area, and then you try to guess where that is. And you have to look at clues on the image and see what country it's in, or if it's got like anything that might identify where it's from. Well, guess who's really good at that? AI is really good at that because it's so good at analyzing data. I mean, it's one of the reasons that it's becoming so popular in terms of medical fields, being able to examine like x-rays and things like that. So it is a pretty good analyzer out there. Next slide. So I'm going to play a quick game for you. There's 2 images. One is real and one is AI. So we're going to go back and forth a little bit here. One is real, one is AI. So put 1 or 2 for the other one. Just which one you think is real and which one is AI. Okay, so the very first image is actually a real image. I don't know if you have ever seen the glass-walled building interior of the Steve Jobs Theater in Cupertino, California, but that's not even an architectural rendering. That's a real image. It was just taken by a really good photographer. I would spend time talking to that person personally. And the next one, the avocado toast, looks delicious, but that is an AI image. But look how good it is. I was looking at some of the details of this image, and suggestions were that the lime doesn't look right, and that's how you know it's AI. Like, no, it's AI. And I've been like, I've ripped a lime and it looks like that, so I don't think that that is an accurate description of how you can tell it was AI. Anyway, I have an example of I had a very sensitive type of scenario that I was creating for one of my courses, and it was supposed to be a video, but then it had to become a still image because there wasn't the workload. So I had to come up with an ambiguous sexual assault scenario. And it was supposed to, like I said, it was supposed to be a video, and it required these subtle emotional cues. And so instead of just explaining it to my designer, I went out and found an image of a boss and an employee sitting in a conference room, which is what I basically needed, except I needed a lot of changes to it. But in Adobe Photoshop, if you have it, and many other programs have this too, I was able to just literally highlight the in-painting portion of this, highlight the head of the boss and say, make it a female, and highlight the face of the employee and say, make them confused. All right. And it wasn't exactly what I wanted, but it was close enough to convey what I was hoping to get from the graphics department. And so the next slide, this is what we came up with. All right. And I did say we needed a witness, but I left the witness up to them. We needed a woman in her 50s who had put her hand on the shoulder of the employee who was his first day, and he was uncomfortable. And, was this sexual harassment? Was this a cultural thing? Because she ended up being a French woman, and he was Spanish and things like that. So just using it to ideate a little bit took a lot of meeting time away, and I was able to just like give them these pictures. And honestly, editing the picture didn't take very long. So it helped us visualize something nuanced that would have been really hard to convey. I'm going to go back out. I'm going to zoom out for a moment and talk about some of the current discussions and things that you all posted into the chat. While we've explored some practical tools and these fun application, the world is actively wrestling with these much deeper questions around AI, generated imagery. And this is where it starts to get serious because, deep fakes are no longer future tech and fun movies. They're here. And AI generated videos and voices and images can really depict people saying or doing things that they never actually did. And it's not just creepy. It's potentially dangerous, especially in the political campaigns, the news media, public health communication, or even in adolescence. This is where I see it, where they're often already the target of cyberbullying, and this can get so much worse. And the challenge is that these visuals are getting harder and harder to detect. And once the misinformation spreads, it's so difficult to pull back. And governments and institutions and tech companies are all racing to develop some sort of AI policy or to prevent some sort of AI policy or governing because, you got to move ahead, but you also got to be careful. And so they're including rules about how AI generated images should be labeled, what kinds of data sets can be used legally and ethically, and whether creators and users are held accountable for their misuse. Now, for example, the EU's AI Act includes provisions about transparency and biometric data. In the US, policy is moving a little more slowly. There is pressure to regulate deepfakes that require content disclosure, but for now, it's really the Wild West out there. So, ethically responsibility is on us and your students. So, please consider this your public service announcement. Take a moment to digest it. And let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so I'm going to talk now a little bit more about what Lisa had touched on earlier. So alt text. We all know that AI is really good at creating alt text. And as of next April, the Department of Justice has a deadline for us to make sure that our images are all accessible. So captions, summaries, long descriptions are needed, and except for things that are considered decorative. So today we're going to share with you a link to the image description specialist that was created by our team. Penny's name is on it because as our team works, one person shares a screen and we all contribute to it. But this is something that was created by our team in conjunction with our accessibility folks. Okay, so this is our gift to you today. And it's really cool because we did use the accessibility requirements, which is like alt text should be 140 characters. Don't use quotations unless necessary. Use proper grammar, such as capitalization and periods. Avoid interpretive commentary and focus on factual and specific descriptions. And try not to mention color. Okay, is it perfect? No, but it gets you really close to the ballpark. And if anyone has spent hours trying to write a description of an image, it's a little hard to describe. This is a lifesaver. Next slide, please. Like, for example, this is an image of depicting poverty in the United States. And I just find this image so fascinating because AI was able to look at the different colors, which I know we're not supposed to mention colors, but it could tell them apart. It could tell the states that were represented by each one. It recognized, the nuances and was able to convey it. So this put us in a really good place. Now, again, for accessibility, we would have removed the colors and put the states in that represented each of those things. But otherwise, the rest of this really worked quite well. The other one that really impressed me was the next slide, which is a cartoon. Okay, so not only can it recognize maybe concrete, items, but this is a hand-drawn piece of work. And maybe it's me, but this tool is not only helpful, it's really entertaining. I mean, if you look in the upper left corner, you're going to see a sloppy signature, all right? And it's hard to read, but hey, I figured it out. If you look at the long description on the right-hand side, it says Darko, Columbia, Missourian in 2023. Like, that's pretty good. It's very good, and it's very impressive. Now, I am one of those people that's easily entertained, but you can play with it too now. We have shared this link with everyone, and I think it's been mentioned in the chat, but if you have a paid version of ChatGPT, it is available for unlimited use. If you have the free version of ChatGPT, you are still worthy to use this. You can use it and get the same outputs. You can only use it 5 times a day, though, at this point. That might change in the future. So enjoy and make good image description text. So basically, what are we telling you? AI is transforming our world. There are more realistic and AI generated images. and they are starting to interpret emotional cues. And diversity and bias issues are still evolving. So we're still kind of all over the place. But major updates are happening every single day. I mean, it's crazy. Next slide. It is exciting. It is scary, and it has ignited a new area and a new era in education and business and the medical field. You know, it's not just images. AI is becoming your co-creator across all formats. Now, the next slide kind of shows like an example of using AI. So use it to create a storyline image. AI walks into a bar. Okay. What I put in here was exactly what I put on the bottom here, except I had to say create an image, because if I said, you know, what does curiosity look like? It would give me words for that. So you have to create an image about what curiosity looks like. And it gave me a young girl. So I did not do anything specific with these images except for the sentences that you see. And how can I visualize poverty? But these are great conversations with students, with anybody, to see where maybe biases lie, where things can be changed, how you can manipulate it to represent your version of what it looks like, how you can create a character for your literature class, how you can connect a little more in different ways. So, next slide.
Thank you very much, Kate, for all that information on images. So as we look ahead, the potential of AI in education is just beginning to unfold. We're exploring how AI can be integrated into a broader range of educational fields, not just labor relations or writing support, but nursing, engineering, business, humanities, and beyond. Really, the sky's the limit. The flexibility of GPT enables them to be applied in almost any discipline. We are seeing a strong potential for scaling up this custom GPT approach. What we've done in one course could be replicated or modified across entire programs, providing personalizations, scenario-based learning at scale without overwhelming the faculty. And as educators, we are all committed to continuous improvement. AI tools are really evolving quickly. And as somebody mentioned in chat, it could happen day to day. And so is our understanding of how to use them ethically and effectively. So we have to continue to refine our prompts, update our GPTs, and incorporate feedback from both students and faculty to enhance our experience further. Ultimately, the goal isn't just to keep up with AI, it's to lead with it, to ensure our use of these tools stays aligned with sound pedagogy, real-world application, and the human connections that define us, that define excellent teaching. So if you could do us a favor, and in the chat, what emoji best represents your feelings about our presentation? And you can be honest with us, please. And also, I know there's a lot of people out there that may have different ideas of what you want to see from a presentation. Please put it in chat, contact us, let us know. We didn't talk a lot about the student side, and we can certainly do that in another presentation. But, you know, somebody said in the chat, are students using it as an assistant? And the whole point there is that we need to make sure that we are guiding students how to use it every step of the way. They may be using it already. They probably are using it already. But if you want to use it in your classroom on your online course, you need to write out guidelines on how to use ChatGPT. But that's a whole other presentation. So thank you so much for taking the time to explore how AI can enhance teaching and learning. As you see today, these tools aren't just about automation and efficiencies. They're about expanding what is possible in education. They allow us to create more authentic, engaging, and personalized learning experience without overloading the faculty or sacrificing quality. So whether you're just dipping your toes in AI or you're ready to build your own GPT, the key is to start with purpose. Let AI support and let the students benefit. I went right away from it. So I will stop my share. Although I could put up the last screen again so that they can see our contact information if they need it.
Yeah. And just while we're doing that, can you talk about, well, you are Kate, how do we balance AI with the environmental impact? There's a lot of environmental impact and processing infrastructure that goes with the use of AI.
I think that's a really interesting. There is a lot of energy out there being used to create the AI. To use it was when you prompt things, it takes energy to create answers. So I think it is a conversation and awareness with our legislature and with our individual governing bodies to kind of figure out how it is, how we can have an impact on how it is regulated. Because at this point, it is not in our hands totally, and not using it doesn't really solve the problem at this point. Solving the problem is going to be a group effort because it's being used, whether or not it's being used by you or not, it's being used by companies, by students, by people, by governments. And so again, it's about awareness and contacting your local, not your local, but the people who are making the acts.
Yeah, to add to that, Kate, too, this has become more and more in the forefront with AI use. And when you read about it and you think about these large stations that they keep these computers in to run all this AI stuff and the amount of heat that all generates and what they need to keep it cool. Um, and it does use a massive amount of energy. I mean, image making is using a massive amount of energy. And I have to believe that technology will also get better. When we think about the first computers that used to take up an entire room, and now we can carry one in our bag. And we can hold one in our hand with our phone. So things will progress, but these also are, and you're right, and water, because they use some of that water to try to cool these systems down. So there is a lot to think about here with using AI. And I appreciate you all bringing this up too.
Yeah, there's another question about, could you just talk a little bit about how the 2 hour working session works?
Sure, I'll talk about that a little bit. So our group gets together every Tuesday, and actually, Kate is our fearless leader of that group. And we'll get suggestions from different people in our unit, or we'll have an idea, and one person will share their screen, and the rest of us just kind of input. It's a very safe place. It's a great working session because we all just share information of trying to get to where we want with either making a chat GPT or solving whatever problem that there may be. Right now we're trying to make it create schedules for us for our IPSs, which help to create the courses. They may maintain the courses and help us create them for each subsequent semester. And so somebody, like I said, somebody will come with an idea. We have one person share, and all of us give great input, and we bounce things off of each other. But it's a very safe and fun place to work. Kate?
It's weekly. There's no homework. We start off with any news we might have heard about AI during the following week or anything that might have impacted us. So it's a very informative, consistent meeting space, and it's 2 hours. So it's been great. It's our favorite meeting every week.
We also record it for people that miss it, and everybody actually does watch the recording.
What else we got, Penny?
There's another question about, what about DEI? So is AI losing ground with DEI related information given the current political climate?
I don't even know how to answer that because it's being fed from the internet. So, like, I
I
maybe.
think that's where it's up to us, where the vetting and validation and things like that come in, is kind of not taking what it gives you as at face value.
Well, and the other portion of that too is like every once in a while I'll enter something thinking one thing and it'll be like, that is against my, code to create that. Could you try rephrasing it? So sometimes there are some guardrails built into different AI platforms that make sure or try to make sure that you don't cross a line into an area that you shouldn't, like a violent image or things like that.
I just see there in the chat somebody talking about Maha. I saw that report last night on the news, and as soon as I saw that, I thought the same thing, Vicky, that I think that might have been written by AI, and it was not vetted. But that's a very good example that you can't just copy and paste, and that's a lesson for students to learn also. And let me just throw this in there. One of my most favorite assignments for students, for you to have students to do, is have them look up a topic. You know, for example, I'd say look up how to create a collective bargaining agreement. So ask students to look that up on ChatGPT, then have them copy and paste that into Word, and then turn on tracking changes and have them review what AI put out, and have them go through and use the tracking changes and make corrections to it. And then they have to hand in that piece that they made the correction on it. And it's good for students to see for themselves that what ChatGPT creates is not always correct. And also, the first couple paragraphs that maybe it produces aren't bad, but as it gets down further, you'll notice that it gets worse and worse and worse. And students need to learn that they need to read the whole thing. Anything else? Go ahead, Vicky.
I think they've been talking about how you can identify some cut and pasted chat GPT text because of the random bolding and the M dashes, which is students are calling chat dashes. So there's another new term. Kind of remember when the pound sign became the hashtag and they don't know what you're talking about when you say pound sign. So chat dashes. Yes, I see that.
Some other people were asking if we could share some of our prompts.
Chat Jess.
And then other people are asking about resources and things where they can get started. So I'm going to put our link to our Pinterest board. We have a Pinterest board for our research group, and it has lots of policies and tools and things that we found interesting. They're kind of categorized, so you might find some resources there.
Betty, can you pull the link from my from the scenario crafter to share that at all?
I mean, prompt engineering, the thing about AI too is it starts to, if you use it often, it starts to recognize like how you like things and the way you speak and the interactions that you prefer. And so when you start prompting, you'll start having a conversation with it, is what I've noticed and found and actually suggested. Like, ooh, that's almost good, but I don't like this, or try this, or why are you doing that? Or stop it. I've like yelled at it like a petulant child sometimes, like, yeah, you're not doing this right. Or sometimes you have to shut it down for the night because it goes down a rabbit hole of sorts and stops working correctly. And then the next day it works perfectly. So yeah, it's so weird to think of this thing not as it's not a human, but it feels like an assistant. But you constantly have to remember it is just honestly trained on large amounts of data, and it kind of can wind its way down the wrong path if you're not careful. And sometimes you have to like walk away from it.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt. I know we still have a lot of questions, but our presenters did provide their contact information. So if your questions weren't answered,
Can you put the slide back up again?
Sure, I will. Let me
Sorry,
just finish
Nancy.
this.
And people want to come to our meetings.
I'll tell you what, they are so much fun.
They really are.
Okay, let me put up the slide. Sorry, I gotta
Okay.
find the share me again.
And whilst Penny is doing that, there is a slide at the end of the presentation that you can take a screenshot of if you need verification of attendance. We aren't able to provide certificates of completion, but there is a slide with the title, the date, and the time on it at the end that you can